right, rolling. We're gonna see how this sounds later. I look at it and I think to myself, it's usually under $100 for the most base level of what it means to live as a van lifer for an entire month. Like, I've really, worked my craft for ages, and yeah, you could add a little more on there if you want to, 200, maybe make it 300 a month. Literally, I could shake my ass as a bum for, one day in a good spot and easily make $300. Sometimes I don't really push it too much, you never know. As far as when you're dealing with, businesses, I always make sure to try to be off their property so they can't say shit. I'm on public property. But that's not the point. When I look at the factor of like, okay, so $30 a month for unlimited data, $15 a month for laundry, assuming I don't just do it in a creek, just get stream safe, biocompatible, which is soap that's basically plant food. Hippies, they come up with good stuff. And let's see, 30, 15, 25 for, under 25 actually for insurance. And basically, let's see, maybe 20 for gas once I get stationary, once I get to a region. And along the way, to be honest, if I'm just shaking it for the money, yeah, I always have a full tank before I leave town. Sometimes I have a fistful of cash and I just put enough in the tank to get me to the next town. And I'm just like birds, man. Just migratory bum, But that's not the point. That's the intro. I see the way a lot of you live. I see the way people talk about the cost of living. And people will say this shit like, well, if we could all be like you, like rolling their eyes, like, you could. Well, we have kids. I've met people with school buses that have kids. I've met people who are digital nomads. I've met people who work at ski resorts, like they do the ski bum thing. I've met people that have done every sort of weird line of work. They just aren't married to their job. They're not married to a place that requires them. It's like this co-parasitic behavior where the only people that are winning is everybody but you. And this isn't like the, in the way before times in the boomer era where you could basically buy a house for, $10,000, $20,000, $50, you're getting a good house way back in the early days of the boomers when they started hitting the scene, back when education was dirt cheap. And by the way, education could be a lot cheaper. We could teach a lot of the things that you're learning in a building at home. I was talking to this guy the other night. He had the coolest shirt. It was like a Vincent van Gogh painting, except for it was like a stormtrooper and there was a walker in the background. It was fucking cool. We were talking and he was showing me these collapsible houses. They're actually really nice. And I like to look into it and see the validity of it because, I've seen people do the tiny homes as far as, one of those huge, like 10 by 20 sheds, so 200 square feet to be under any sort of permit requirement. And the thing that's happened with a lot of those is the counties roll up and like, you can't live in that structure. You can't live in that. You cannot live in that. That is not permitted for this place. Meanwhile, I could bring in an RV to a lot of places. Isn't that funny if it's a temporary structure? And that might actually be why those places can get away with it. Because you can literally collapse the house down. You put the furniture in this special place in the house, and then you can literally collapse the house and move it. It was like they were asking like $12,000 for these things. And you could put it on a trailer and move it. Literally. I mean, can you imagine like a modular design like that? I mean, I don't know. I'll have to look deeper into it. But me and him were talking, and he's like, yeah, I mean, I know a guy. He said it'll be about $100,000 with that house, septic, well, plus land. And I think about it, I'm like, how much are these septics costing? $15,000, $25,000. The well, is that like what, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000? What is this costing? And of course, electricity. And he was like, I want to do solar. And I'm thinking, Solar is a lot cheaper than you think, man. I even told him, I said, the only reason you got to build such a huge system is because of your wife wanting turn dial lifestyle, like people locked in the 1980s. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I got 2 solar systems on my van. I got one that's an old school for lead acid battery, and yeah, I know I should upgrade it to something like lithium ion. But for now, that's good enough for basically just a 10-watt TV and charging some phones and some headlamps and some other things. And the other one's a little solar generator that I have for storing a lot of energy and basically powering my little fridge, like anywhere from 30 to 40 watts. And I get more enough energy. I think, honestly, 4 panels on top of this, 400 watts, or if I could get more wattage, like a more technical panel, and get like 500 or 600 watts out of the same space, that'd be tits, man. That'd be fucking tits. And what I'm getting at with that is that a bigger solar generator, this is not costing no 20, 30 grand to do that. It's just a matter of adjusting how you do things. Like how much lighting do you really need? How big does it have to be? And by the way, hey, look at there. Here comes. There goes one of our local ravens. Racket the Raven. He's been fighting with this hawk around here. Must be something dead down there in the valley. There's my solar oven. But just how much, even the 100,000 he's talking about, that actually sounds really good for your kind, you normies. For 100,000 for you normies would be incredibly good. But when I look at the numbers where I can live off like $100 a month if I want to, but I could really, let's just say $300, $200 to $300 a month. And that's me living it up. That's me if I was smoking weed, and I'm not because I want to get a job eventually, just because I'm fucking bored. That's the truth. I'm bored, and it wouldn't hurt to put away some more money towards retirement. But that and some vodka time, a few things here and there, and an emergency fund. So I just knock that to $5,000 a year as a drifter, as a van lifer, as a trucker. And then I see people making 80 to 100K a year in my industry, or in a lot of industries. And I'm just thinking to myself, how is it that I and maybe just a handful of other people have figured this out? And you try to put the information out there, but mostly you just run into a wall of people being like, "No, it's not possible. No, you're a bum. You're a this. You're a that." These people, I own 3 pieces of property outright. I wish I owned this one. I love this fucking place. I got 5G here. I got 75 channels. See that shadow there? That's my antenna. I got 75 channels over the airwaves. There's only a few that I'm not picking up here, and that would be Buzzer and Laugh. I would love to have those, and whatever one plays Rockford Files. I even got some doubles of channels, so in different time zones. So one will be playing a couple hours before the other one, which is fucking awesome, because then, like, let's just say I watch this and it's great, and then I watch something else. But let's say something else later comes on, I could watch this other channel and get what I want anyway. Tits, man, it's tits. I'm just like looking at the world and I think to myself, I don't know, maybe people really just are meant to be indentured servants or slaves or something. Because when you can't break that level of normacy thinking, of like, well, we have to have this type of car and this type of neighborhood and this type of thing. It's like, it's just a car. It's just a neighborhood. You want your kids to do better in school, you got to tutor them at home. You want your kids to do better in school, you should probably get them out of the public school system. Like, I see these arguments with the EBT Americans, for instance, and they're sitting there talking about, we don't get our EBT, our benefits, we're going to go in and rob Walmart. Mostly in the views, it's a bunch of black people. And I'm just like, it's like a bunch of angry cows, at the waiting for the food to show. Moo, moo, like, oh, you're really angry. Ooh. Like, you are so incapable of efficiency and doing for yourself, because you've been subsidized, that you literally are talking about robbing stores if you don't get your free money from the government. Let that sink in. You're that much of a fucking failure. I'm a bum in a van, and I'm not on the system, believe it or not. I mean, I go to food banks, but that's literally food that grocery stores, restaurants, and everything else are claiming as a tax deduction instead of throwing it away. You should never feel bad about getting free food from a food bank because you already paid for it when you paid taxes. But I'm sitting there looking at the world. I'm looking at America. And by the way, this is why people, you know why people hate immigrants? Because they know what I know. Not all of them, but the ones that come fresh from another country, they know what I know. They know just how little you can live off of. They know how to cook food that's efficient. They know how to make portions that actually make sense. I mean, I should eat better. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I've got some poundage to me. But it's so easy to win that you actively have to fuck up your life on a daily basis. Like people that have kids when they can't afford to feed themselves. People who buy like sports cars or big pickup trucks. Like, I could understand if you're claiming that big pickup truck on your taxes, it's a business. But if you're just buying that because you could drive to the bar, the tavern, look at my, you see this all over the farmlands of America. These dudes, they're jacked up Tonka toys. No functional real, they don't use it. They maybe they're a construction worker and they kind of use it. But I'm going to tell you something. If you're working for somebody as an employee and their boss is sending you to go pick up the fucking lumber with your truck and you're making that payment, you're a chump. No, that's his business. He can get that shit delivered. It ain't your job unless he's paying you good money to do it. Unless he's chipping into your fucking truck payment, you're a chump for doing that. You people buy these things just to show off to other people to pretend you're not poor. But then the same dumbass people, when the economy goes slightly ajar, not to shit, not to depression, not even recession, just slightly ajar, you morons act like the world's coming to an end. Scary. And all because you don't save your money. And as I said in the very beginning of this, I can live off, if I really go ultimate minimalistic mode, around $100 a month. But let's just round up to 200, maybe 300. And that's me if I was smoking weed. By the way, I know how to smoke weed to where I get like 5 times the value out of the weed than you do. Why? Because I'm smarter than you. It's called a balloon toke. Same thing. Like when I'm down in the wasteland down here, I go to the discount liquor store and I'm going to buy the same bottle that up north you're paying twice the price. You get it? Do you get this? It's a whole way of thinking of not having to pay as much. So it's actually when I get run into these people that grumble, get a job, or they'll point at a McDonald's sign. And I'm like, have fun, boomer. It's always a boomer, by the way, or some angry old woman. Why aren't you working? Because okay, so I'm going to take a job and then quit it in 2 weeks. Why would you quit it? Because I don't want to fucking slow down. I don't want to settle down. Like when I go back to work, and I don't know if you can see them out there. You see those trucks way the fuck out there? I want to be driving one of those. I want to be traveling again, getting paid to travel. I don't want to be sitting around some little town, some big city, just running that hamster wheel to pay the bills. Fuck that. I want to be mobile, move in until I fucking drop dead. I want to be a nomad till I die. Like that song by Metallica, Wherever I May Roam. I'm just saying, I look at the world and I see this domesticated human that gets exploited on their little economic hamster wheel. And I'm just like, how is it that only maybe a handful of other people figured out what I figured out? And the answer is, most of you are sub-fucking human. You're not human. You're common-borns. You were meant to work and die. And I don't see that to be mean. I'm saying it because it's true. Anyhow, take it easy. Freedom fill out.